Right. So what's the situation? If you are in sales, you probably have been in a situation where, prospecting can be hard and finding opportunities is sometimes difficult. So the minute somebody wants to talk to us, we feel like we owe them. We feel like we need to be grateful, and we feel that it's a little bit rude to ask whether they are the decision makers or not. Also, sometimes prospects might trick you or make you believe that they are the decision makers when they're not. And this could happen because they falsely believe this themselves, or because they're just tricking you because they want to get free information out of you, right? Salespeople are known for being free researchers for a lot of companies. And there's nothing worse than coming to the end of an opportunity thinking that you are talking to a decision maker, and the person says, oh, actually, I need to talk to my partner, or I need to talk to my wife, or to my board, or whatever that is. Sometimes they refuse to get you in touch with the decision makers. Perhaps it's a sponsor, someone who comes to you because they have questions, and they simply won't get you in touch with the decision maker because they don't trust you, because they want to come across as a hero who's driving the change in the organization, or because there is no project whatsoever. So you need to be able to spot that. And also, everybody wants something different. Yeah, so you could have a solution that for someone means something and for someone else means a completely different thing. So you don't want to be persuading the wrong person and building a case and proposal for the wrong person. So the problem with all of this is you could get to a situation where you're wasting time and effort building a solution or proposal that doesn't resonate with the decision maker. It's not what they want to see, and you could end up losing the deal for this reason, even though you've been working with a sponsor or someone else in building that proposal. But there's also a possibility where you know the different type of roles that play in your opportunities, and you know how to identify these different type of roles, where you can learn techniques, and techniques to help you access these decision makers and gauge their attitude towards their project, towards your project, your solution. And by doing so, you will be able to show all these roles, including the decision maker, exactly what they need to see to buy, and therefore increase the chances of closing the opportunity. So as I said before, we're going to follow a 3-step process. The first step in this module is going to be to identify the players or roles, yeah? And the question you need to think about accessing here would be, do we know who the decision maker is? So that's the question that you need to ask yourself. The second step would be to access. We need to come up with strategies to access those decision makers and engage their attitude towards our project, and ask them questions to really understand what problems they have, what solutions they have in their mind, and so on. And the question that you need to answer here is, do you have access? Yeah, pretty strict. Do you have access? Pretty straightforward. And then the last thing you need to do in this process is to gauge their attitude towards your solution and or project. And then the question that you need to ask here, to answer here, is, are they on board? So this is the 3-step process that we're going to do today. And by doing this, what you're effectively doing is getting decision makers on board with the project. Yeah, so to do that, you need to identify who the players are. You need to access them, find ways to access these decision makers, and then finally gauge their attitude towards the project. Now, According to Gartner's latest research, there are about 7 different decision makers involved in a complex B2B sales scenario. So the first thing that you need to try and identify is who are those people. Yeah, as we said before, the completely different the different roles that participate in the decision making process. And these roles could be obviously the decision maker, but maybe we can have a sponsor who's not making the decision but is somehow there. We could have multiple sponsors, indeed. We could have validators, and so on. So that's one of the things. Yeah, that's one of the realities and challenges that we're facing, identifying all those completely different roles. But also what we need to do is to try and understand the influence that they have. Yeah, and the influence could be, if we painted in 3 different bars, it could be, minor, it could be something in the middle, or it could be significant, the influence. And then finally, what we need to gauge is the attitude. Yeah, as we said before. And this attitude could be, it could be positive. Yeah, maybe they really want to go ahead with us. They could be, somehow indifferent, or they could be hostile towards our project and solution for whatever reason. Yeah, and so if we use this kind of pentagon to try and paint a picture of what that might look like in a sales opportunity, maybe we have on this side the decision maker. Maybe we have here a sponsor. Maybe we have a validator. And maybe here we have 2 key contributors. Yeah, key people who are somehow evaluating the solution as well, even though they're not a sponsor, they're not strong, they don't have the capacity to drive the project forward, and they're not making the decision, they're not signing the check, therefore they're not a decision maker either, right? So we start to think, okay, so decision maker, each one of these bars here would represent the influence that they have. So it's safe to assume decision maker will have all of this influence in the project. The sponsor perhaps will have significant influence, and the validator will have a little bit influence, actually quite a bit of influence, because if it doesn't go ahead, if he doesn't want the solution, it just won't happen. Maybe he's an IT person or someone in legal. And maybe we have a couple of key contributors with a little bit of influence because they have a little bit of knowledge in the project. Yeah. And so when it comes to attitude, though, we need to access these guys and start gauging what their actual attitude towards the project is. And so we might find that the decision maker is kind of indifferent to the solution. Yeah, it's not where it needs to be. We have a sponsor who really wants the project on board. So he's helping us push through and do the work and whatnot. And then we have a couple of key contributors who are also on board with the project. They really want to. And we have a validator that's pretty hostile with the solution, right? So what we need, once we paint the picture, we can start to devise and come up with strategies to turn yellow and red into green. Or if we know that we can't turn them into green early on in the process, we might decide to leave the opportunity, to qualify it out, to not pursue it. Yeah. So for instance, if the decision maker is pretty hostile against your project, and you know that it doesn't matter how many sponsors and validators you have, it might be a good idea to just not work on that opportunity and focus on other opportunities that are more likely to close. Yeah. So a couple of comments here. There might be, maybe a role will have different hats in the opportunity. So maybe a role, a certain person will be a decision maker and also a sponsor. If this is the case, then we need to assign them the highest rank in the qualification. So if you have a decision maker who's also a sponsor, we need to classify him as a decision maker in the end. Also, you might have multiple people who are sponsors, multiple people who are key contributors, multiple people who are validators, but there will be only one decision maker. And your ability to identify, access, engage decision makers will massively impact on the likelihood of you closing that deal.